Hello, everybody. Welcome to
Hello.
Cinephilia, not Perception Studio. This is everything as we
It
do
is Perception Studio.
but this specifically is Cinephilia, and we're now on YouTube and Facebook. How's
And
everybody doing?
Facebook.
And Facebook. Look, Reed H. Cooper's here on time. It's great. We're ready to go. Kind of. It was a little hectic the last 20 minutes as we're trying to make sure that everything's working on YouTube and on Facebook. But welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up. Thank you everybody for being here.
I have two windows open, so I'm going to see if I can actually access the Facebook chat and the YouTube chat at the same time and keep track of it while talking and doing the show. We'll see how that goes.
That's going to be interesting. I'm in front of a lot of screens at the moment. But yeah. How's your day? How's everything going today?
My day was good. My day was pretty smooth, aside from just getting ready for this change of a show.
Yeah.
We're discussing, we're trying to define what makes pop culture today, so I was writing down lots of notes about my thoughts of pop culture and stuff like that to prep for the show. So
Cool.
that's how my day went. How'd your day go?
It's okay. It's hella windy in Southern California. It's
Yeah,
windy
it
and
is.
cold. Cold for us, but like super windy, like for no reason. I don't know why. And it's just been really obnoxious. Like our door in our front of the studio is going, we're just getting shaken by the wind. This is too much weather for us here in California. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Well, today we're talking about defining pop culture, right? We're going to talk about what
Yes.
what pop culture is, how it's defined, and how that kind of works. But I think first we should maybe hit up the news.
Let's see what happened in the news this
What's
week.
the news? So what do you got? What's going on?
There wasn't really a lot, but there were some announcements as far as streaming. I think all of the news this week, there were some trailers that we're going to get to that were released there. I'm very excited to watch, but otherwise, news stuff was all about what's coming to streaming. Because streaming still seems to be the wave of the future, the current wave of movie watching. So there were some exciting things announced. The Muppet Show is finally coming to Disney Plus. Finally. Like, I understand why they want to hold off a little bit and have that be like another big announcement so that more people come in for that show, because it's a major show and a hard to find show if you don't already own it on DVD or VHS. It sucks because when they were doing the DVD releases, they only released 3 of the 5 seasons.
Yeah, so we haven't been able to see those last 2 seasons for a long time.
In a long time, yeah. So they're adding all 5 of those seasons to Disney Plus soon.
Nice.
So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that'll be really exciting. Although I'm really bummed that we didn't get that set, because I have the first few sets and I wanted to actually physically have the others. So I guess that's not gonna happen now. That's done.
I have the first 3, and I love the packaging that they were doing for those sets, where each of the season releases was like a different Muppet character, like just their face. Talking about pop culture, we're going to get into like what makes certain things iconic, and those Muppet characters are iconic, and it was cool how they just had each one featured on a disc. And then the second season and the third season, which were Miss Piggy and Fozzie, I believe, had flocked coverings.
Yeah.
So I was a little worried about getting those because I didn't want the flocking to come off, but I'm very gentle with my collection. So they've kept up.
My season 1 is flocked as well.
Oh, the Kermit one?
Yeah, the Kermit one. Yeah, the one that I got.
Maybe mine's flocked as well. I'm pretty sure whatever special thing came out is
You
what
found
I have.
it. Yeah. So
Knowing me.
I'm excited to be able to see those. That'll be real cool. Yeah, just 3.
Reed H.
Cooper went to
Cooper is
check.
asking, no
just
no
the 3.
more DVDs. It's just a streaming.
Cool. So when is that coming by the? Oh, in February. Oh, cool. That's soon.
That's in February. If you don't want to wait for the Muppet Show in February, next week Disney Plus is also adding Jim Henson's Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that as well.
I haven't seen
a big
Dinosaurs in a long
announcement,
time,
but
so I don't know how it's held up.
Well, this is the thing. I loved it as a kid, because of the jokes and because of the puppetry and the world building and all that stuff. But I've seen some YouTube essays on dinosaurs more recently as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
um, that really speak to me as a kind of nihilist. Because without giving, I don't want to give too much of the show away if you've never seen it, but obviously they're the characters are dinosaurs and it's set in history and we know what happened to the dinosaurs, so that's underlying throughout the whole show, the fact that you know dinosaurs don't continue to exist for all of time. Um, and I think that going back to watch it as an adult, it's going to hit me on a different level because it has um, it's obviously a sitcom, but it
Mm-hmm.
has some serious undertones to it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think as an adult, I'm going to pick up on those serious undertones a lot more, and I'm
True.
probably going to enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm guessing the baby is the one thing that is not going to age well because he wasn't the most pleasant thing to begin with.
He's
But
probably going to be fucking annoying,
but everything else I'm excited
but
about.
you know,
And when is that coming out?
that's supposed to hit Disney Plus next week.
Oh,
So
nice.
right away.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, because I don't think I've seen them. I actually watched them since I was a kid. I know I loved them, and I know it was one of my favorite things to watch. But it's
Yeah,
been such a long time since I've seen it.
and that was one of the shows that I never got the DVDs of. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
been forever since I've seen it. Um, Also in streaming news, HBO Max is getting a Harry Potter show.
like
I'm not
with
sure how I
Harry
feel
Potter.
about it. I believe so. I believe that they're turning the. I don't know the details, honestly, but I believe that they're turning the books into a series because that's the trend right now.
Like
But
they just finished the movies. Why do they need to remake them?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
Ah,
why do they
that's
need to
weird.
remake any of the stuff that gets
You know
remade?
what? Also, maybe we just let that lie for a little bit. We kind of let that settle and figure that stuff out before we. That seems like a
That's
very weird investment to try to make right now.
yeah. And that's why I feel like I don't know how I feel about it. Well, actually, I'm not gonna say I don't know how I feel about it. I do know how I feel about it, and I'm not excited for it. Like I feel like it just needs to rest. And I
If
get that a lot of people have Harry Potter fandom, and the fandom is huge even without acknowledging the author. Like lots of people love the fandom while still not liking the author's stances lately.
yeah,
But at the same time, like, what else do you do? I mean, there's a lot you can do with the world building, but why? I
yeah.
just don't see the purpose of it.
I don't. I mean it as if I was an investor, if I was the one putting money up, I'd be like, "Is this something we want to spend money? This feels risky. This feels like I'm putting some money into something that might not go so well because people aren't really. They're trying to stay away from it right now in large
Right.
numbers. So I wouldn't. And
But
also,
at the same time, we're this is literally leading right into our conversation today about pop culture. Like something that is so popular, people will still throw money into it. People will still watch it if they make it available.
I guess
And
so.
that's the thing.
If it's TV and if it's available, and be like, "Oh, I feel bad about it," but it's right there. I guess it's different
Right,
than
exactly.
like the video game where you have to go out and spend $60 on the video game. This is if this is just gonna be on TV, it's easy to just go bloop and turn it on. So
Yeah.
maybe.
And everyone at this point is signing up for HBO Max because of all of their releases.
Yeah, it's
So it's
true.
going to be there and it's going to be watched.
But outside of that, I don't need to see it again. Like I saw the movie. The movies they made really good movies. They covered
Yeah.
everything they need to cover. And maybe if they were gonna do Harry Potter, they should try and done something in that world, just something else.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Reed H. Cooper is saying the Potter films are quality adaptations already. So
Yeah, and recent. It's not like they were made, 40 years ago. They were made recently.
similarly, and I feel like maybe this would do better because of um, the problems with Harry Potter right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Disney Plus is making a Peter Jackson show.
Yeah,
which I don't think Peter Jackson is as popular as Harry Potter, but I think it's the same realm of storytelling. So
Percy
so I
Jackson.
think people will. Oh, sorry, Percy Jackson,
I
not
was
the
like, let's see
director,
a chubby New Zealander.
not the
I'll
director,
watch
Peter
that.
Jackson.
Percy Jackson. Yeah, it was the
I
answer
think
to
people
Harry Potter.
will navigate to Percy Jackson, but now I want to see a Peter Jackson show personally. None of that slip happened. Oh, that's funny.
I know very little about Percy Jackson. I just know there's like magic and it's kind of like Harry Potter, but not really. And I know there was a
Yeah,
movie.
it's
That's all I know.
it was a. I think Percy Jackson was the first to jump on the Harry Potter movie and book into movie trend. Like after Harry Potter was so
Yeah.
big, I think Percy Jackson was like the big push that they tried to do. And then they've
Is
tried to do a lot of other like big pushes like that. And none
mhm.
of them really hit the same way Harry Potter did.
Is Percy Jackson like an answer to Harry Potter? Was it derived from it? Was it like, oh look, that worked out, magic kid, so we were gonna make our own, or was it something that existed outside of
I
being
think it
influenced?
existed already, but I think that the Percy Jackson movie was an answer to
Mm,
the Harry Potter movie. But I think that the books existed already.
okay.
I believe. I'm not certain. I've never read them. I've never seen the movie.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting that both of these shows, again, are being pushed around the same time, just like
Hmm.
they were with the movies. So it's a trend. It's a trendy thing. All of this really is leading into stuff that we're going to talk about today on the show.
Reed H. Cooper says, I think he's talking about Harry Potter movies. He said, they aren't that recent. I mean, actually scary to think, but by the time the TV series comes out, the first film will be 20 years old. Okay. Thanks for
Yeah, and
pointing that out. I
we get
feel
more Spider-Man than Harry Potter's in
it's
this smaller
true.
time frame.
But like
So
Harry Potter was done. Like they did a good job and it was done. I don't know. Anyways. Um oh, so CBS Access is changing to Paramount Plus.
yes.
How's that? Just the name
They're
change?
they're just they're rebranding. So I think that the again with the trends, something happens and is popular, so everyone else jumps on board. Um, Disney Plus, Apple Plus. It's an easy way to rebrand and have a name that's catchier. I think that CBS All Access um, has a stigma to it. Like I think that people associate CBS All Access with being new Star Trek and nothing else.
Yeah, and
And I think that
also
they want to branch out and be more than just new Star Trek.
well that and also that CBS All Access means it was like, wait, I already was getting CBS on TV for free. Why do you want me to pay
Right.
you more? So I think that maybe there was a little bit of a stigma. It didn't feel like something new. It was just yeah, they like
So
it's like
Paramount
we're giving
being
you more
like
stuff.
yeah, Paramount being a big movie company as opposed to CBS being a TV channel, then it already has the branding of having a bigger selection. And
Hmm.
there's a really cool clip that they released of like promoting Paramount Plus
Hmm.
with all of these cool characters from shows that we know and love or shows that are coming up are climbing up the Paramount Mountain. And
Oh,
it's kind of cool. Like Captain Pike and Spock from the new Star Trek shows are there. Beavis and Butthead is there. Dora the Explorer is there. Um, Gail, the news anchor, is there. It's just like all of these people who are associated with shows that will be or movies that will be available on Paramount Plus, climbing up the mountain. It's a good branding. I have to admit,
is Beavis and
it's
Butthead
really funny
currently
to see
on
Spock.
CBS?
They're doing a new Beavis and Butthead show.
That's
They're
right,
bringing Beavis and Butthead back,
because that's what we
and
needed.
that's where it's going to be.
Oh, we didn't, but I needed Beavis and Butthead.
I'm fine with it.
I
Like I
love
love
Beavis and
Beavis and
Butthead.
Butthead. It's so
I
stupid, but I
used to
love it.
hate Beavis and Butthead. When I first saw them, I hated it. I thought it was the worst show ever. And then I watched it and I got it, and I realized that they were stupid, but the world around them was pretty real. Was like a normal. They lived in a normal world, and there's just their point of view was really dumb and innocent
Right.
sometimes. So I really enjoyed it.
I Dave and I spent a couple hours earlier this week, going through old music videos on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them, a Nine Inch Nails music video. We watched a video, and then as a suggestion, it said it gave us the clip of Beavis and Butthead watching the video from
Mm-hmm.
the show, and we watched it, and it just brought back a flood of memories. Like Beavis and Butthead's commentary on you know, pop culture of the time, music
Mm-hmm.
videos, was pretty great. And the way that I mean, they're stupid characters, but the way that they saw things and would comment on
Mm-hmm.
things just cracks me up.
It's weird
So
because like
I'm fine with it coming back.
I used to hate when they did the videos. It's like I just want a video. I don't want them to talk over it. But now I miss it. I wish they would still do
Yeah.
that. I miss that. Phil Bruce says, "LOL, bring back Eon Flux." I would love them for them to bring. Actually, that's
I would love
all of that. Was the big head or giant head or the head and Max and Eon
all
Flux,
of Liquid
all of
TV.
those, all that would be so cool to be back.
I have to say hi to Phil. We went to school together. Hey Phil, what's up?
Oh, yeah. More. What's Mountain Clips? Apparently, this is just weird. This is just Paramount Pictures refused to sell Top Gun Maverick, so the new Top Gun movie that they were supposed to be out, I think this year in 2020.
Yeah.
Netflix and Apple tried to buy it from Paramount. We're like, we'll put it on the streaming. Let us buy it. They absolutely refused. I guess those streaming services were like trying real hard and bidding for to try to get this movie to be released on the streaming service because it's Top Gun. It's a known name, pop culture.
Yeah.
Reference.
So they just wanted to go.
Yeah.
Go
So
to
they
theaters.
just delayed it till next year. They're like, nope, we're just gonna wait.
It's gonna keep delaying.
It's gonna keep delaying.
Man, it better be good.
Yeah, it better be good. And maybe it is, and maybe that's why they're super confident about this, and nobody's gonna be disappointed. But I don't know. And last in the news, Alan Tudyk, who voiced why do I not remember his name? K2SO in Rogue One, the big robot.
Oh.
Droid.
I was thinking of all the other characters that Alan Tudyk voiced because there was a lot.
Yeah. Apparently he confirmed that he's not going to be in Cassian Andor series, at least for the first season. He's not going to be in it. So there's no
Okay.
K2SO. So I guess maybe second season he'll meet him and they'll become friends.
Yeah.
I don't know. Which is a little bummer because
We'll
I
see
really
what
like him.
Does the Cassian Andor story take place before or after Rogue One?
Before, because he dies at the end of Rogue One. Spoiler alert.
Oh, that's right. Spoilers. I forgot.
Everybody
I've only
dies.
seen Rogue One. That's right. I've only seen Rogue One once, and that actually was something that I really liked about that movie was that it let that happen, but I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, was it Gareth Edwards? Gareth Edwards directed it. I think I remember him talking about how he didn't think that Disney was going to let him do that. Disney wasn't going to let them just everybody dies, but they were like, okay, and
Yeah.
everybody died.
Well, it's because they're they're not the pop culture icons.
Yeah,
The characters in that movie, they could do whatever they want with them.
yeah, and also where were they if they had lived, and like where were they in the rest of the time? They just
Right.
so it makes sense that they died. Well, that's it for news, right?
I think so.
Oh, it's outside. Cool. All right, so let's go back to our main event. Defining pop culture.
Wait, no, we're not ready for main
No!
event.
Well, no,
I
we're
wanna
not.
watch some trailers.
Trailers instead. Oh, look, I'm not in there. I am not in.
Where are you?
Yeah,
I have to handle this all by myself.
I had to go to the bathroom before we sat down.
YouTube said, "Art, get out."
But there I'm there. Well, let me crop myself a little bit. I had to make some changes before we started the show, and I forgot to fix this. Okay. Cool. So our first trailer we have something called Jumbo, which apparently Will knows what it is.
People have been, film critics and such have been talking about this movie for a while because it made the film festivals a little bit ago. So I've heard about it. I know what it's about. I haven't seen it.
All right. I know very little. I know the blurb from the trailer. Oh, it's not in English.
No, it's a foreign French. I will say I am excited to see it.
Un pour ma petite main, un pour moi. Un pour ton père.
Maman! Tout le monde me connaît ici, je viens depuis que je suis toute petite. Je mets des manèges qu'il y a au parc. Je laisse aller mon imagination. Y a quelqu'un? Salut toi. Ça te va si je t'appelle Jumbo, toi? T'as déjà ressenti des choses avec un objet, toi?
Là-dessus, toi et moi, on est un peu pareil. Ouais, on a un peu le même amour pour ces bestioles.
Tu me diras, il y a peut-être des risques de court-circuit, non? Parce que si tu mouilles vraiment, il peut rouiller, tu sais ça?
So wait, what?
So, do you get what the movie is about at all?
No, I have no idea.
What was the description? You said that it had a description. What did it say?
Let me bring it up. The description was: a shy young woman works in an amusement park. She still lives at home with her mother and is fascinated with lights and carousels. When Janine meets Jumbo, the park's new flagship attraction, a thrilling, unique romance ensues. I don't know why I missed that part.
So the movie is about this girl who falls in love with an amusement park ride and the romance that they have.
All right, this is real weird.
So quirky. It's gonna be quirky and out there, but that's why I'm interested. So I don't know if you. This is the thing. This movie is not the first time I've heard of this. There was another woman who claimed to be in a relationship with the Eiffel Tower, where she would go and like sit and meet with the Eiffel Tower, and so this is a thing that some people experience, and I don't know the details of it, but
yeah, I mean,
I'm interested in figuring out like what it all is. I think the movie is going to be captivating.
Yeah,
but I don't know in what way.
Yeah, it comes out in February 19th in cinemas, and then in video on demand afterwards. So probably get it later in the year.
So the lead actress is also in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was a movie that I raved about when that was out. So go watch that if you haven't seen that, and get to know her work because she's great.
All right, the next trailer is for something called Dreamcatcher. It is. I wanted to see this because it says starring Lou Ferrigno Jr. So Lou Ferrigno's son.
Junior.
I guess. The film centers on two estranged sisters who, along with their friends, become entrenched in a 48-hour whirlwind of violence after a traumatic experience at an underground music festival. So here is.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
What?
We are going out tonight. Cataclysm! This place is like an adult Disneyland. Shots? Aren't you supposed to be DJ Dreamcatcher? Are you worried about getting mobbed out here?
Why do you think I always
DJ
wear masks?
Dreamcatcher.
So here's the deal. We will get rid of the body, and you will walk away with a compensation check.
We will take them down.
Well, we can't go in there guns blazing. We are better than that. We've got to be strong.
I don't want to be strong. I want to be angry.
Go, go, go!
Huh.
I feel like that didn't show me enough.
No,
I mean, I think it'll be like visually stimulating. We'll see.
British Cooper says Lou Ferrigno is the lead on Saved by the Bell. Is he
cool?
Zach Morris, the Zach Morris son?
Maybe he's AC's son.
Yeah,
I
don't think I'm interested in this one. I'm gonna pass on this one. This is
one that I feel like. I mean, if it was streaming, then I'll jump on it and watch it. I think it could be fun. It could also be very trite and similar to a lot of other things that we've seen already. So we'll see.
All right, and here's the last one. Have you seen this last one?
Oh, Reed H. Cooper says he's Jesse's son on Saved by the Bell.
Oh, okay.
No, I have not seen the last trailer, but I'm very excited for it. I waited for this show because since we're doing trailers again, I'm like, I need my reaction to be here.
Okay. Cool.
To see this. I'm very anxious.
All right, so this is the trailer that just came out yesterday for Godzilla vs. Kong.
Have you seen it already?
I've not seen it at all.
Okay.
This is our only chance. We have to take it.
It's so big.
We need Kong. The world needs him to stop what's coming. And this child, she's the only one he'll communicate with.
I knew that they had a bond. She had nowhere to go, so I made a promise to protect her. And I think that in some way, Kong did the same.
Oh no!
So Godzilla just seems way bigger.
He is!
It's Godzilla.
Destroy everything! Yeah, they shrunk Godzilla down and
These are dangerous times. Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people and we don't know why.
There's something
we know why.
we're not seeing here.
I'm of the same opinion.
The myths are real. There was a war.
Yes!
Last one standing.
I keep reaching for greatness because I'm built from it.
Who bows to who?
Nobody will stop me.
Kong bows to no one.
Yes!
Oh, again. Wow.
Okay, first of all, for clarification, they've gone on record as saying that the Kong that we met in Skull Island was a little Kong. He wasn't fully grown yet, and so that's why he's that much bigger now. Because it's been all these years. All these years have passed, and he's grown bigger. So that's
okay.
That's what they're saying. But you know how those old like comic book crossovers or you know sometimes movie crossovers where the two teams or the two characters would start fighting first and then they realize they have a common enemy and then they go after common enemy. I just want Kong and Godzilla to like fight but then be like, wait a minute, and then they just destroy all the world. Like, destroy capitalism. That's what I want Kong and Godzilla to go after.
They realize how they're actually being oppressed and they're the ones who should fight back against the system that is making them do that.
There's a really cool thread that I shared on Twitter that someone wrote about how Godzilla and Kong are these symbols for American destruction. Like Godzilla is how America destroyed another country, and Kong is how America kind of destroyed itself with its history and horrible history, and that these two, it's a really cool thread that just goes into all the symbolism of these two characters coming together and fighting and what that means. Go check. I'll have to share it to Discord and stuff, but definitely check out the Twitter thread that I shared there.
Cool.
I'm very excited for this movie. I must say.
MJO, so I'm guessing it's MJ Sino. Says, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but this looks good. And Phil Bruce said, yes.
It does look good.
Yeah, it does look good. It looks fun. I wish this is the one that I wish we could have seen in the movie theater, because this would have been real great in the movie theater.
Our resident Godzilla expert Dave Davenport is here in the chat saying there's a shot with a mecha character in it, which, yeah, there's going to be a lot of monsters in this, it looks like. I thought it was just going to be Godzilla and Kong, but there were a few other Easter eggs, I think, in there. I didn't even notice the mecha one, so I'm going to have to go back and watch that again. But that's also exciting. Yay!
Well, let's scrub and look for it. Let's see. I guess I'll be here somewhere. There he shows up. See if we see anything. We're only gonna do this for like a minute or two. Okay, there's some.
That shot was awesome.
That shot was cool.
I'm assuming the mecha is not going to be on the island with Kong. It's going to be in one of these other scenes.
Shots. You know what? I could spend 20 minutes doing this. I'll just do this later.
Yeah, we'll have to do a special trailer reaction scrub episode later.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, that looks. I'm excited for that. Can't wait.
I'm gonna watch it on HBO Max, but I agree that this is one that probably would have been great in the theater.
If it ends up being a good movie and it does well, maybe they'll do a re-release later on.
Maybe.
I feel like there's a few movies who are gonna get that. They're gonna get a re-release in the movie theater because I think people are gonna watch some of these movies. Like this is definitely one. If it's a good movie, I would go back to see it in the movie theater again. Like next year or later in the year.
Not not. What movie was it? Oh, not Wonder Woman. You wouldn't go see Wonder Woman in the theater if they re-released Wonder Woman 84.
Phil Bruce says, is that 11? Yeah. She's all grown up. I think she's more grown up now because I shot this a while ago.
Yeah. And she was in King of the Monsters as well.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Was that all the trailers?
That's all the trailers. That's it. That's it for trailers.
That's it. So it's cool. It's kind of cool having two chats going at once. I have to give some shout outs to people in the chats because there are people on both chats talking to us. Our friend Ashley says hi and that she misses us both.
Oh, cool. Hi.
Over on Facebook. Stargazer, who's a friend of mine who I also went to school with, is over on Facebook. And Rosa Vega.
That's my mom.
I know. Hi, Mom.
Hence the Vega. Cool. I can't see the Facebook. I don't know. I couldn't load the Facebook, so you're gonna have to keep up for that for me. The Facebook chat.
Not a problem.
Cool. So let's talk about defining or what defines or defining pop culture.
What defines pop culture? This is as we get more and more into so many remakes and sequels and stuff, I think it's important to kind of talk about the differences between what makes a movie popular and what makes a movie pop culture, because those are two different things. I think a lot of movies are a lot of movies are both, but I think that a lot of what we're seeing is not. A lot of these remakes and sequels are not that great, and I think that they exist because of pop culture more so than being actually like popular good movies. And so that I was just thinking about that one day and was like, oh, that could make an interesting episode, just talking about like what is it that makes something pop culture, what makes something fit into that genre. I think it's easier to define in other industries. Like obviously music has a pop genre as opposed to movies. Movies don't have a pop genre. We just have some movies that are more mainstream than others. So I think it can be interesting, something interesting to talk about and try to define. Thus, this episode. I'm going to start with like using the actual definition of pop culture. I'm reading off of Wikipedia now, which we know Wikipedia itself is like a pop culture thing because people have so many hands in it. It's whatever is most known is what gets put up on Wikipedia. But Wikipedia says pop culture is generally recognized by members of a society as a set of the practices, beliefs, and objects that are dominant or prevalent in a society at a given point in time. Pop culture encompasses the activities and feelings produced as a result of interaction with these dominant objects, and is heavily influenced by modern times and mass media. So I think that's pretty true. Like, if you think of things like if I were to say to you, name a pop culture movie, what would be like one of the first things you think of?
Star Wars.
Yeah. Star Wars, Star Trek, Harry Potter, as we were talking about earlier. Anything Disney. I think Disney automatically falls into pop culture. Lord of the Rings, I would say, is pop culture. So, comic book movies, I think. I'm going to rephrase that. Superhero movies, superhero comic book movies, because there are movies based on comic books that I don't think fall into pop culture the same way. But it's I think pop culture generally is something that is recognizable by most people within that culture. So like, for example, I was doing the popcorn bucket for this week, and I don't know if you guys noticed these popcorn buckets. I never use noses for the characters. The only popcorn buckets that have noses that I've drawn are animal characters like Kip Bull or Scooby-Doo. And I started to put a nose on this Mickey Mouse popcorn bucket, and I was like, no, it's already recognizable without the nose. You can look at it and see like the mouse ears, the red shorts with the two white buttons, and you automatically think Mickey Mouse because he's such a popular, iconic character that you don't need every part of him to even think of him. Like, just like, we have hidden Mickeys all over Disneyland for one, but everywhere. Like I am walking through a hotel room and seeing hidden Mickeys and carpet in the hotel. Like, that's how ingrained that character is into most people. I don't think that that's like something that we experience just from having worked at Disney. I think that that's a part of pop culture is hidden Mickeys. And so that's like something that's instantly recognizable, whether you like it or not. But just the fact that it's recognizable makes it pop culture, because it is then transcended popularity to be a part of mass consciousness.
By the way,
and it's a very strange thing.
Ryan Harris yelled in all caps, "Wizard of Oz."
Wizard of Oz is most definitely pop culture. I think it's one way that it's easy to recognize something that is pop culture is how much it's been remade or how many sequels there have been, because repetition helps to define a lot of pop culture.
And I think that pop culture has to have anything for it to become part of pop culture has to have some definitely lasting effect. I feel like something that was, I guess you could be in pop culture, but I don't think anything we don't remember, anything that was only like a fad or something that lasted for a few months. I think things that were really ingrained in pop culture have a lasting effect of, years or a lifetime. And I think those are the ones that make the most sense to me to use as pop culture.
Yeah. I think that speaking of lasting effect, there's one thing that I think is interesting in that there are some things that when they initially come out are too forward thinking, I think, for a lot of audiences, and so it becomes not popular at the time, but it ends up gathering a cult following, and then like cult classic movies I would put into pop culture because it ends up sustaining time, just like you said, as opposed to being something that was popular for a moment and then dying off. Cult culture stuff or cult classic stuff ends up kind of sneakily entering the pop culture. Something like Rocky Horror Picture Show, which, when it first came out was not a big hit at the box office until it became like a theater event that you went to. But now, like, you say that and you say the title Rocky Horror Picture Show, and just about everyone has an image that pops into their head from that movie. Everyone recognizes it and recognizes Dr. Frankenfurter or certain characters from the movie. And I just think it's really interesting that some pop culture can have a slow burn like that. Because when you think of pop culture, you think of like really in your face stuff, but there's some more subtle things that exist within pop culture as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of movies, and a lot of things that don't hit that mark right away. I mean, like Labyrinth or any of those cult movies that like failed at the box office, it didn't do so well, but all of a sudden over time, maybe if you saw it as a kid and as an adult, you were able to kind of still remember that and still hold on to it, it becomes more ingrained into you and becomes more part of that pop culture.
I do think that nostalgia dictates part of pop culture as well. Like things that, like you said, some things that weren't popular when we were kids, but we enjoyed. Actually, I would say that a lot of pop culture is dictated by children.
Do you think?
Because a lot of markets do things for children. Okay, let me take a step back. I think that something that I was thinking about when thinking about like how to define pop culture, I was trying to think of what creates pop culture, and I feel like there are two different ways that pop culture can be created. Okay. One is by producers who are specifically trying to create pop culture, and that's where the repetition comes in. Like if producers are like, we want this to be popular, so we're going to keep pushing it. I think that's why everything that Disney does automatically falls into pop culture, because Disney continues to push and push and push their branding to the point where no matter where you look, you see it. And so it instantly becomes recognizable. So that's one way I think that some pop culture is created.
So this is like an artificial way to do it, to create it?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the other way to create it is is a less artificial way, which would be to have something that is unique enough to stand out against everything else. So like Rocky Horror Picture Show, even though it wasn't popular at the time that it first came out, or Labyrinth, there were people who found it unique enough to gravitate to it, and not only gravitate to it, but hold on to it.
Yeah.
And then I guess a third way, I wasn't even thinking of this as another way to create pop culture, but I was thinking about this in a different context. But I would say a third way to then enhance that is, I think that a lot of pop culture has to cross, in order for something to become pop culture, it has to cross industries. So something
Okay,
that's
yeah.
like something that is a film like Labyrinth. Once you then cross into like the music genre and having David Bowie do the
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack, or you cross over into comics and then have books,
Mm-hmm.
or other kinds of toys and merchandising made based on that, that then creates the repetition that creates the pop culture,
Okay.
if that makes
So,
sense.
so do you think we live in more, and maybe it's what I'm thinking. I feel like maybe now we live in a far more manufactured pop culture
Oh yeah.
than we did before. I think right now so much of pop culture is more manufactured than actually have been organically grown. If that's the
I would
term.
say yes, because so much of I think that bigger companies are trying to sell us certain things, and so they're creating culture to sell that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, so we get like really pop music being pushed on us. We get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
franchises and movies pushed on us. A lot of sequels and remakes, like I was saying, a lot of repetition. But in response to that, I think that the true pop culture right now, outside of like movies and music and stuff like that, is meme culture. And
Mm-hmm.
meme culture is created by us, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I think that I won't say this is the first time, but I think this is probably the most intense time that the population itself has been creating what is pop culture,
Yeah.
in a different way,
Okay. Yeah,
if
that
that
makes
makes
sense. And
sense.
that's outside of media necessarily, like our traditional media. Uh, this is kind of another medium that came out of that kind of generated some pop culture.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Um,
I hadn't thought of memes and stuff as pop culture, but of course they are.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're a response to pop culture, but they also become pop culture themselves because they generate further responses. Memes are so interesting, and memes are. I personally love memes, and I love like GIF commenting. That's like some of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a weird culture in itself. I
Yeah.
mean, we could do a whole episode on meme
Uh,
culture, to be honest.
Reed H says I avoid memes if I can. He's not a fan of memes.
I love memes. Um,
I
I,
don't
I
have attention span for a lot of things, so if I can you give me something in like 2 or 3 seconds, I'm good.
I think that's what's really great about memes is that it is very um, concise and very quickly. Like because and memes only work because of the whole mass consciousness that
Mm-hmm.
everyone shares. Like just showing an image, like one image, and you automatically getting what is happening and what
Yeah.
that represents, and then taking that image, adding it to another image
Mm-hmm.
that does the same thing on its own, but then taking those images and combining them to create something different that speaks to both of those things separately.
Mm-hmm.
I think memes are intense and kind of brilliant.
Do you think there's maybe like a not so good side, not the negative side to memes is that maybe make us a little lazy because we expect or make us not look beyond what's right in front of us,
I think that
or it's maybe
N-
possible that it
not
could.
not that it not that it doesn't make us look beyond what's in front of us, because I feel like in order for you to understand the meme, you have
Mm-hmm.
to the more you understand about the situation that the meme is commenting on, the better the meme is.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're only getting surface memes, maybe that's I don't know. Maybe you're not getting into the memes
I don't,
because
I'm
you're just
only
on the surface
this
of
only
it.
popped into my head
But
because this past week you posted something, and it was a comic strip, but it's kind of like you have to swipe through. I
yeah,
stared at that first image for a good 20 to 30 seconds, going, I don't get it. I don't understand this meme. I don't know what he means. And I went, oh, click, swipe, swipe. There was more. I didn't realize there was more panels to it. I thought the one image was it, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't
well, I think that that's more of a problem with
with
that's
art.
more of a social media thing.
Okay.
Less than I mean, memes are very inherently social media,
Yeah.
but I think that problem you were focusing or you were having was more of a thing on social media being a certain way of presenting memes as opposed to the meme itself.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Rage Cooper says, too many times a meme becomes a trend and people are just making the same joke over and over and it loses energy for me. That can happen.
That definitely happens. It depends on how good it is. I personally am all on the Bernie memes. The Bernie memes are hilarious to me. Just his fed up face being put into all those situations is hilarious to me. I'm also really fond of memes that make fun of Scarlett Johansson playing anything other than a non-white woman. That will never get old to me. I'm sorry. That will never get old to me. There are some memes that transcend for me but there are definitely other memes that are just like, okay, that's over with.
I get it.
It all depends on the context, and of course, it all depends on your own perception of what you're into as well. There was something else I was going to say before we got into a meme tangent, and I can't remember now. but I honestly did have meme culture in my notes because I knew that was going to come up, and it needed to come up. Oh, I know what it was. Howard in the chat. Hey, Howard.
Hey, Howard.
Mentioned that Pulp Fiction comes to mind, even though it has no sequels. And there are definitely movies. I think Pulp Fiction falls into that second category of things that are so unique that people gravitate to it, and it stands out from other things. There are definitely movies like that don't have sequels and don't have don't have as much repetition that still fall into pop culture just because they're so strong in and of itself. When I was looking for a background for this episode, I went with another pop culture setting because I know that everyone can see that setting, see that couch behind me, and know exactly what it is. But when I was looking for a background, I literally typed into Google pop culture movie to see what would come up, and Pulp Fiction was the biggest hit. There was just like Pulp Fiction everywhere, and I wasn't any good backgrounds for me, but I found that interesting that Pulp Fiction is, Google searches are made on algorithms and such. So Pulp Fiction is the biggest pop culture movie that websites apparently have talked about on the internet, which is just fascinating to me.
Let me see what comes up when I Google pop culture. Nope, not what appears. Just see images. Oh, I see a bunch of weird stuff.
Oh, what kind of stuff are you looking at?
Like pop, like pop art. For some reason, like a lot of that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's all of things that are in the pop culture. But it was weird because it mixed pop art with it.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier how like pop culture has a lasting effect. And I feel like there are, it's not sustaining pop culture is definitely not trendy. It's stuff that kind of sticks around, but we do get these little trends, especially in movies. In the movie industry, we get little trends of what's popular at the time. So like we were talking about earlier, Harry Potter came out as a movie and became very popular. And then we started to see a trend of a lot of other movies like that, Percy Jackson, and a lot of other movies that were similar come out trying to capture that popularity. And I do find it interesting that the movie industry does have those pockets of trends that pass by. Like science fiction is another one that there are certain times where science fiction becomes really, really popular and then it kind of dies off for a little bit. Or there'll be a few years where there'll be like 100 vampire movies. Like there are times where vampires are really, really popular, and then it kind of dies off. And a lot of those movies we end up forgetting because the market gets so saturated with all of that stuff that it all kind of becomes the same. But then you get something like Pulp Fiction that Reed H. Cooper was saying had the shock value when it came out, and there was nothing else to kind of like jump on it, because it was a very unique thing to Quentin Tarantino and the way that he makes films. It was a very auteur film, and so that ends up sustaining and standing out by itself. It's kind of like, I know we talked about Labyrinth, but also when the Muppet Show first hit, that was such a new thing. Like, people knew Muppets a little bit from their appearances on talk shows before that, like Ralph and Kermit. And when the Muppet Show hit, it was such a throwback to vaudeville, so it had kind of a nostalgia factor for the audience then, but at the same time, it was puppets done in this new and unique way and given this new and unique format to do a show, that sticks. There was nothing that could recreate it the same way as that show did. So it stuck and stood out, and is why we think of the Muppets as being this very particular thing, even when Disney is trying to make it something else. Pop culture still sees the Muppets as being the Muppets, and Disney's trying to do all these other weird things with it that aren't really working because they're not giving us the Muppets. So I think that's the catch-22 of pop culture, is getting, if pop culture recognizes something a certain way, then it's hard to break out of that, for sure.
It's hard to redo it, or it's hard to reinterpret it. So then I guess maybe there are different levels of lasting that a pop culture is. Like, as you mentioned, like vampire movies, like we kind of got over that, but they did last for a few years, and now
they last a little bit, but in the long term they don't last as. I mean, but there are vampire movies, specific vampire movies that last, like Bram Stoker's Dracula is an iconic movie, or even Dracula with Bela Lugosi is an iconic movie. So there are movies within those trends that end up jumping out, but then there's like no one thinks of like Dracula 2000 or anything like that. The same with zombie movies. There are so many zombie movies that exist, but so many of them are just like the same thing over and over again. But then there are certain zombie movies, like Night of the Living Dead is so iconic because of what it was portraying with its black lead and stuff like that, and the sign of the times, that it stands out. So I think that's another thing that kind of helps something become pop culture, is that it has a certain specific iconography that is associated with it. So just like I was saying, we have hidden Mickeys, like Mickey Mouse is an icon. Like, whether you like him or not, whether he's annoying to you or not, he's an icon that you can't escape. Tinkerbell opening the old Disney television show, I think that made her more iconic than Peter Pan as a movie. Her opening up that Disney show, every episode would come up over top of the castle, wave her wand, and then to have her be a character if you go to the theme parks for every night for fireworks. Tinkerbell is a part of the fireworks show. So she becomes a certain iconography with the company, so that anytime, even though Tinkerbell is a character that was not created by Disney, she's a character borrowed from another work. Anytime you hear Tinkerbell, you think Disney. It's just how it is. Exactly. Like, we get so many Peter Pan movies that are not Disney, and still all of those characters are more associated with Disney than not. Fairy tales in general are, to be honest.
Howard says, music, food, fashion, beyond the scope of tonight's chat when it comes to pop culture? No, I don't think so. I think because they all affect each other. I think we mentioned earlier they do overlap and they affect each other. Definitely.
And that's how you can recognize something has really made it into pop culture, is by the fact that it jumps industries, it jumps into different forms of entertainment. In the same way, even something that hasn't started as a movie, books that jump into film have a higher percentage of becoming part of pop culture, as opposed to books that just stay books. And that's why so many books or so many authors want their books to become movies or TV shows, because it builds up that notoriety. I remember, this is a really good example of, I think, me experiencing what pop culture is. I remember being a kid and into comics, into superheroes, reading Marvel comics, and I remember picking up an issue. I didn't pick it up. I just saw it on the newsstand. It was like a Vogue or Vanity Fair or some sort of fashion magazine that had models posing with drawn in Marvel superheroes. And I was like, oh, that's something that I never would have put together. But it's so cool that I get to see these superheroes that I love in this other medium. Because it's not a comic book, even though they're using comic book art and comic book artists. It was fashion. They were in the fashion industry. Or if you look at something like Angelina Jolie's Maleficent, who became like a fashion icon because of her fetish wear headdress, or someone like Grace Jones or David Bowie, who transcend industries, like as far as acting, as far as music, as far as being fashion icons. Them themselves, Grace Jones and David Bowie and Prince and Michael Jackson, they all became icons of pop culture because of being able to do all of that, and do all of that stuff very uniquely in a way that other people or actors or models or musicians couldn't. So all of that, pop culture is a part of all of that entertainment.
By the way, Peter Valdivia says hi, Will.
Hello, Peter. How's it going?
Didn't say hi to me, just you. Even though he commented
so cool
on my post. It's on my post.
So
he
cool
said hi to you.
That being on YouTube and Facebook, like all of these familiar faces are popping up.
Yeah, I'm keeping track of 3 different places where there's chat.
Where's the third chat?
In my own post. That's where.
Oh, okay.
Text, yeah.
Got it.
Let me hit a couple of these things. Reach Cooper says, speaking of comic book movies that actually transcended its comic, Scott Pilgrim, the film was way bigger than the comic book series.
Yeah, totally. And then there. So I started this out by saying like the difference between popular movies and pop culture, because there are movies that become popular for a moment, but then they kind of die off, which is sometimes fitting depending on the movie, but sometimes unfortunate as well. So something like Ghost World, which is a comic book movie, I feel like that movie kind of helped solidify Scarlett Johansson as an actress, but then people kind of forgot about the movie. And it didn't really, it's not a superhero movie, so people don't associate it with being a comic book movie, and then it doesn't kind of transcend in that way, which is unfortunate because it's a really good movie. The same thing for the film, animated film, Persepolis, which is based on a biographical comic, which makes it, a comic book movie. But again, it's not that MCU style that stays in the public consciousness. Talk about pop culture and repetition creating pop culture. That's basically what the MCU is. I mean, they're great characters that I love, but we're getting a lot of repetition, and so people are familiar with it, and it becomes nostalgic, it's weird to think that something that is current is nostalgic, but at this point it is, because that's literally what's getting me through WandaVision right now.
Yeah.
Because that third episode, those episodes are kind of rough. They're not funny. They're not funny at all. But the interest of what's going to happen to these characters that I like and know, and the little inklings of where it's leading, introductions of characters like Monica Rambeau, all of that stuff is keeping me on that show because it's pop culture.
Howard says he's talking about the Take On Me, the music video. And he said, 12 frames per second pencil over film look totally forgotten at this point, and that's okay. And then Redish Cooper says, wait, Scarlett Johansson was in Ghost World? I only remember Thora. Yeah, she was the other girl.
Scarlett Johansson is Thor's best friend. Yeah. And that's one of the things that drives me crazy about it, because Thora Birch is also a great actress.
Yeah.
But where is she now?
She was on Walking Dead. That's it.
Was she? I didn't even know that.
Yep. I didn't realize it was her for a while.
She had a cameo in, of all things, Last Black Man in San Francisco. And when I saw her, I was like, hey, that's Thora Birch. I was like, good to see her. I'm glad she's doing something. Yeah. But Scarlett Johansson blew right up. Now she's able to play
whatever she wants.
Whatever she wants.
Whether we want it or not, she's gonna play it. Good for her for sticking to her guns.
Oh, that was hilarious. So yeah, So
then, now that I feel like that we live in a more manufactured pop culture world. Do you think, what does that mean long term for pop culture and its effects on us?
I think that first of all, I have to blame this on us, not me and you in particular. Not me and you in particular, but definitely our generation is exactly what you were saying before. We got into specific things as kids, and now that we're old enough to make movies and produce movies and run things, we're the ones that are pushing the nostalgia because we want to see the same things that we saw as kids. That's definitely our generation doing that. There was, not to say we're the first to do it, there were definitely, pushes for that kind of thing before our generation, but this onslaught of remakes and sequels and prequels and midquels and everything that we're getting right now is us. We're doing it.
I don't know where I read that. I honestly don't know if it was an article or I did it on a Facebook post or a TikTok, but it basically explained that the reason why our generation's so enthralled with nostalgia, it's the fact that our generation has struggled so much with getting jobs, with succeeding, and because we got a messed up economy and all this stuff. So we go back to our childhood because that made us happy. So we try to really bring back that happiness because where we are as society, our generation is struggling. So we go back. We go back to what made us happy, and that's why we're so nostalgic in our pop culture.
Absolutely. Like we always talk about here, like escapism is a real thing. Like we need it to survive, because just being in the harshness of what is this world right now is fucked. And yeah, that's totally why we're getting so much nostalgia and so much of the things that we already know are going to make us happy. I wish a lot of these remakes and sequels were better than they are, personally.
Yes, they're going to be there. Make them better.
But I understand why they're here. Like, I understand why we are going through this. And it's the same thing with meme culture. We gravitate towards making fun of things because you gotta fucking laugh.
Yeah.
Because if you're not laughing, you're crying at this point. Like, that's how the world is. Yeah. So it's, I don't know what else to say about that without getting too dark.
Yeah, we only got 15 minutes left. We don't have to, we can't delve too much into that. Yeah,
But I will say that
Phil Bruce
go
says
ahead.
our generation made Rampage into a movie. LOL.
Exactly.
Well, that should have never happened.
Exactly. Not everyone from our generation is the smartest either, so
No.
we get stuff like that. But you know damn well somewhere was like Rampage is my favorite video game of all time, and it's going to be my goal to make it a movie before I die, and they did it.
Yeah, hypothetically, it sounds exciting because I was like, yeah, that would be cool to see these three monsters climbing up buildings. Yeah, but it practically, I don't know if that's something to aspire to.
But then that's another thing that I was talking about earlier, where we have this specific idea of what makes something good because of pop culture, and then when you change it, which Rampage did change a lot of that, it doesn't lead up, it doesn't stand up to that hype. So then, if you take something that you liked as a kid, it was a very different time that you liked it. You were having very different experiences, but you're taking that and then putting it into what's happening right now and trying to make it relevant so that people will go see it and be interested in it. You have to make some changes, and not always are those changes good. And so things end up sucking.
And not everybody knows what changes to make it good. The correct changes are the better changes.
Reed H. Cooper is saying, why does Tom and Jerry have to look so bad?
Because somebody who doesn't make good choices is making it. That's why.
I'm going to kick myself for saying this. I already know. I hate that it is set in New York. You guys know that's a pet peeve for me. Like, not everything needs to be set in New York. But again, New York and LA are the big pop culture places for America. Those are the big cities that people know as being big, crazy cities. And so that's where everything goes. As far as storytelling, people just want to set things in those places. But aside from Tom and Jerry being set in New York, which is so stupid, I'm actually looking forward to that movie. I think that the animation looks cool for it.
Yeah, I hope only because it looks pretty and the animation looks good. I'm hoping that'll make up for it.
But story-wise, it looks stupid.
Maybe the Tom and Jerry part will be good. Like, did you ever watch Kermit Swamp Years?
Yes.
I hate that movie.
I own it.
So do I. But I only hate the parts where there's humans. All the parts where it's just the little frogs and they're running around, it's great. I love it. But the moment humans showed up, and I was like, why? Well, get out of here. Stupid.
The best part of Kermit Swamp Years is not the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever watched the outtakes?
Yes. The
outtakes are hilarious. The outtakes are the best part of that DVD.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the movie. The movie's whatever.
Well.
Yeah, I things don't need to be set in New York. But you just reminded me, see, all of my pop culture favorites are coming back, and it seems like the Muppets are a big thing for us. I know they're a big part of our pop culture on this show. But seeing something like crossover, I think is also a major pop culture thing, because it's just like when I was talking about the memes, taking two memes and putting it together and have it stand as something new. I love seeing different franchises crossover. So like Kong versus Godzilla, I think is awesome. Alien versus Predator movies are not that great, but for some reason I still enjoy them just because it's that crossover. They're not great. They're not very great movies. Actually, the first one, I love the fact that they had a black woman lead and let her like go all out with it. But talking about Kermit Swamp Years, you just reminded me of like a crossover that I could not get enough of as a kid, and that was the TV special of the Muppets going to Disney World. And it was just as Disney was like trying to buy the Muppets, so the Muppets were becoming part of the Disney family, and they decided to do this special. And it is one of my favorite Muppet things ever, and one of my favorite Disney things ever. And I think saying something like that also ties into the draw of pop culture, like saying two things that are popular on their own, then combine is kind of like Freddy versus Jason. Hell yeah!
Fun.
Stuff like that is really fun, and I think it feeds into our group consciousness because it's all things that people know already.
Terrence Dark says, "Remember when anime was not pop culture but shun culture?" Do remember that?
I do remember that too. I remember when nerd culture was shun culture. Yeah. So like comic books, anime, all of that stuff were things that were not pop culture. But again, our generation, because we were the ones that were really into that stuff, and now we're the ones making decisions. All of that stuff is we're just making it fucking popular.
Oh my god!
Like all you bullies that made fun of us in school. I remember being in elementary school. I was in elementary school and got teased for watching cartoons in elementary school. Like, what am I supposed to be watching in elementary school? But all you bullies now, you have to watch the shit that we love. And you're going to love it too, damn it.
We grew up to make decisions about what cartoons we should be watching as adults. I'm not making any decisions about economy or capitalism. We're going to concentrate on cartoons and things like that.
I actually love the way that you said that sentence. We grew up to make decisions about what cartoons we watch as adults, because a lot of the cartoons that are being made now are not being made for kids. They're being made for us. Absolutely. And we're also getting a lot of remakes of cartoons that we enjoyed as kids. So like DuckTales. There's this new Chip and Dale coming out. We got new Thundercats at one point. We had new what else? There's been lots of remakes. Very interesting. She-Ra, which is a good example of how to take something that you liked as a kid and then modernize it, because there's a lot of diversity and inclusion in that show that's awesome for today. So She-Ra is a good example of that. Phil Brew is asking what's on my shirt. This is one of my personal favorite pop culture characters. I'll show you. This Black Phillip. I actually wanted to I wanted to mention, I know we're going to be wrapping up soon, but I wanted to mention, while we were talking about pop culture, how things accidentally fall into pop culture too. So something like the Babadook, which I don't think would have been as popular of a movie if it hadn't been for Netflix accidentally putting it in the LGBT category, and then Babadook suddenly becoming a gay icon. That definitely...
That's awesome.
That put a movie it's a movie I love, and I have very personal ties to, but I don't think a lot of people initially got into that movie. But all that happening definitely moved that movie into pop culture because of it. And now everyone knows what Babadook is.
Because at the very least, you want to go find it.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up there.
Cool.
Yeah, it's in the links. So if you guys want to look at that shirt, you can get it on Redbubble.
Yes.
So we're gonna wrap it up there. Do you want to let's go over recommendations before we go?
Yes. I know last week I recommended One Night in Miami, which I ended up watching, and I have to say was absolutely amazing. Really loved it. But I'm trying to think of what I've been. You know what I'm going to recommend?
What?
I'm going to recommend one of those movies that unfortunately did not get into pop culture because of its timing and its production value. It's a movie that was made because of the popularity of Star Wars. It came out like a year after Star Wars, but it's not so good. But I'm going to recommend people watch it because I think it's interesting. If you have never seen it, watch Message from Space, which was an international production. It's got, believe it's a Japanese director and writer, and so it's a Japanese production, but it has an international cast, and is very backwards Star Wars. It's one of those movies that I feel like it's an answer to Star Wars, but it has its own ideas that I think are interesting enough that it could be remade. And I think that if done successfully, it could be really good. So that's why I want people to check it out. I feel like I'm going to end up doing some fan art from it, but it's called Message from Space.
Where is it streaming? Is it streaming anywhere?
It is, because we just watched it. And I think it was HBO. Or Amazon. No, it was Amazon.
Amazon, okay.
Yeah, so Message from Space is a 1978 Japanese space opera, directed by Kenji Fukasaku. Yeah, and it's got Sonny Chiba, and it's got Sadata. I can't remember his first name, but the guy who fights Hawkeye. You know that the Japanese actor that pops up in everything, Hawkeye. He's one of the stars of this movie, and he's like totally young, fresh, clean shaved.
Nice.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. It's not a great movie, but I feel like it's one of those movies that, since we're talking about pop culture, it's an interesting movie to look at in terms of how it came after Star Wars and why it didn't do well because of Star Wars.
Dave says Hiroyuki
Sadata. Yeah.
I'm gonna recommend. It's one of those recommendations that I do all the time where I just find something. I haven't watched it, I haven't used it, but I think somebody should check it out so you can let me know how it is. I found another streaming service that seems kind of interesting. It's called Mubi, M-U-B-I. I don't know if you've seen it. And it's a bunch of it's called Handpicked Cinema. So they took it's a bunch of like independent movies and international movies, and what they do is they have like a selection of them and they rotate them. So they have like a curate. I think they have like basically a month's worth of movies, and every day they switch one of those movies out. So like if you have a hard time finding movies and maybe you feel overwhelmed by like going to Netflix on Amazon and seeing a million things, this place tries to concise it to 30 movies that you can pick from, and it constantly rotates. So you have access to these movies and you know some recommendations from somebody who thinks that this movie might be interesting. They have a 7-day free trial. I was gonna try it out. Maybe you guys should try the 7-day free trial. Seems interesting.
Yeah, I've heard of Mubi, but I've never checked it out. So that is a interesting one. Maybe how much is it after the free trial? Do you know?
Offhand, I don't know, but I felt like it was comparable to everything else. I don't know how much it is actually, but we're checking out. Cool. All right, everybody. So we are gonna wrap it up there.
Next week, let's get the chat ready. If you guys want to make your own list, feel free to do it. Next week is going to be a very fun topic that kind of like jumps off of this topic. We're going to be making a top 10 list of the top 10 worst superhero movies.
Top 10 worst.
So if you want to make your own list to include, just bring it to the chat.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
There are a lot of bad ones.
Well, everybody, if you guys hang on for a few minutes, we're gonna be back with Perception Paints. We're doing a Star Wars themed painting. So stream will cut off and we'll be back in about 4 minutes, 3 minutes. So we'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll Cinephilia you later.